Who are you going to ask about whatever in life if you've got this problem? Well, a person that you see as mature, person who knows the Word, person who has that kind of a gifting, that's who you're going to gravitate to, and that's who's going to carry weight in your mind as to what is authoritative. So anybody can, you know, we've all met preachers who should never be turned loose to make decisions. We've also met elected leadership in the church who maybe when they were first put in were enthusiastic and sincere and committed, but in the 20 years since then they've gotten lazy, they've stopped maturing, they've taken ownership of an office and have stopped shepherding the flock.
They've lost the life.
Okay, so life has changed, and it's in our church, it's Christian church, wider Christian church. It's complicated as to how we come up with leadership, and I think that the essence of the leadership is kind of to me the pivotal decision or issue on authority. I mean, anybody can take a vote and say this is the way it's going to be, like it or lump it. Well, that's not proper use of authority. You know, all authority is delegated. God has delegated to leaders in the church to do what? Feed my sheep. You know, shepherd my flock.
As a person that receives that delegation, if you will, you are accountable.
Absolutely.
Yes. As a leader, you are accountable.
Absolutely.
You know, I would say, and this is, these stats don't come out of anywhere other than my own head, but I would say in my observation of conflict with authority within the churches that I have served, I would say that 2, 3, possibly 4 times out of 10, it's an actual leader issue. 6, 7, 8 times out of 10, it's just an attitudinal problem within the body. You know, I think that those leadership issues tend to be fairly minimal compared to attitudinal things getting out of whack. They tend to be fairly maximal. You know, that there's, and I'm just pulling those numbers out of my head, but just in my observation, it seems like most people have more of an attitudinal problem than churches have an actual leadership problem. But
I was fortunate, and I've been fortunate, I think, at several points in my life to see prime examples of things like this. And not all authority. One prime example of authority, but and I think, gee, isn't that neat that worked out that way? But as I've gotten older, I realize it's a God thing. You know, He's put these incidents, these experiences in my life to teach me something, to refer back to. Now here's the yardstick you should be using to measure this situation. One of them was the most dramatic one that I've experienced in my life was authority and leadership. Wasn't in the church, it was in the Marine Corps. And that's the last place you'd think that something like that would occur, that the life-changing example would be set in front of you about leadership and submission to authority. In the Marine Corps, that their favorite training technique was verbal abuse and profanity and even physical abuse.
Okay.
I had the good fortune to serve under a master sergeant that was a Christian, and had to be a God thing. God put him there. But I was under his direction for 8 years, and I never ever heard anybody in his presence or out of his presence question his authority or his ability to lead or his caring for the people under his direction and supervision. They just didn't do it. He wasn't the kind of guy. He knew that he loved every man under him, and he'd give his life for every man under him. There was never a doubt in your mind if you ever ended up in a combat zone, he'd give his life for you in a beat of a heart. Nobody, and he wasn't afraid to go to sleep at night in a barracks with 200 Marines and read himself to sleep reading his Bible. And that wasn't the place, that wasn't the culture at that time. It didn't bother him a bit. But I never, in 8 years, did I ever hear anybody, even in his presence or outside his presence, question his ability to do the job that he had responsibility for, or his dedication to the people that served under him, and he earned that. He earned that by being who he was. There was never a question, never ever a question, no matter how rebellious or how hard-headed or troublemakers that crossed his path. When they came into his presence, they changed their whole demeanor because they'd heard about him and they respected him.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have even taken it upon themselves to question him or give him a hard time about anything. And he never had to ever raise his voice. He never had to give it an order twice.
Right.
I think that kind of a leader can be applied, that level of leadership can be applied to the church, it can be applied to the Marine Corps, it can be applied to other places, but he earned it.
Yeah.
I mean, he earned it.
I think, go ahead.
You know, when Moses needed help and he was just wearing himself out, making judgments for the people when they would come to him, and his father-in-law Jethro gave him the suggestion: pull in some people to help you do this. You can't do it on your own. So we called the leaders of each of the clans, the tribes, and then those men who the tribe people knew, we either respected them or didn't or whatever, but were aware of who those people were and what they were about. And then, how is it easy to submit? Why isn't it easier? How is it easy to submit when we know the people that we're in subjection to? Like, I can sometimes.
Careful now.
I know.
You're on tape.
I'm in a rebellion right now, so I have to really be careful. But it's easier for me to submit to Dan, whether I agree with him or not.
Yes.
Whether I agree or not.
You know his heart.
And yes, I know his heart. He respects my opinion. He includes my needs and wants in what he ultimately decides. And God told me right after we were married, in an issue that came, a decision, he wanted to do something, I wanted to do it differently. And God just really spoke to me. You've wanted a godly man in your life, and now you have one. Let him be it. Let him be it.
Yeah.
And
But
you know that
if he was not a man of integrity or a man of God,
I couldn't trust him with my life at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be able to trust whoever I'm going to give say over what I do. They have to be working for the same guy that I'm working to get to.
Yeah. All right. Good conversation. Want to kind of, before we kind of close out here, this has been a great conversation. I want to include everyone watching online to go to the message board online, and you can join the conversation there. Post some comments, suggestions, whatever you want to talk about. You can post it there, and people have an opportunity to respond. And you can join us next week when we'll be talking about legalism. See you then.